I am talking about the question, is it a network? That is, we've learned some wonderful techniques here on how to measure networks, but often we don't step back and decide, is this actually a network that we're measuring? So I was really inspired to do this talk by a talk I saw last year delivered by Hans Knoll, in which he compared parties and networks, asking really whether are we looking at a party, are we looking at a network, or are we looking at something that may be nothing like that at all? To think of just one example, did Mitt Romney this year actually win the Republican nomination because of the activities of a network of party elites, or not? Maybe this is just something Romney did by himself. He simply bought himself the nomination. It's actually fairly hard to tell, and it's important to figure that out, whether we're talking about a network or a party or neither. So what I want to do is go through a couple of things that I've looked at that probably are networks, and talk about a couple of things that probably aren't networks, and then offer some techniques for how we might be able to distinguish between the two. So I want to start off with something I looked at using a network method. This is just, I was able to find some factionalism here, and I was able to weight the nodes by eigenvector centrality. But what this pretty picture won't really tell you is that what this network actually is the first 10 entries of an old faculty handbook I found lying around. It's just a directory, and these nodes are all connected by the number of shared digits in their phone numbers. Now, this is not a network, okay? These people don't know each other, they don't coordinate, they don't communicate, it's not a network. So this was relevant to some research I was doing last year in Nebraska when I was trying to look at the role of party elite donors in causing greater partisanship in the state legislature. So what I did is I collected a bunch of campaign finance data, and I looked at who was giving to whom in the state legislature, and then I colored all the nodes by the party of the candidate. And basically all these nodes, they have a tie between them if they have a donor in common. So back in 2000, there's not much partisan structure there. If we go forward to 2008, suddenly it becomes a much more partisan appearance, where it's mostly Democrats on one side, mostly Republicans on the other. And this to me suggested that, okay, maybe these donors are having some sort of an influence here. They're actually causing some of this partisanship. But how do we know that they're doing this? How do we know that the donors are even causing this, or they're talking to each other? What? Well, I went there and interviewed people. And it was freaking cold, but I talked to donors, I talked to activists, I talked to office holders, and I got a sense of really what was causing what, and I found that very helpful, and I put it in the paper, and it has been published yet, but I'm still working on it. Another thing I was interested in is the recent surge of Rick Santorum in early February, when he suddenly, out of nowhere, won the caucus and primaries in Colorado, Minnesota, and Missouri. Now, some people notice he tended to do well in the areas of these states where there were higher percentages of evangelical Christians. And so I was wondering, well, maybe there's some sort of a network story there, okay? Maybe somehow in these evangelical churches, their pastors are suggesting, hey, maybe Santorum's our guy. I don't exactly know the mechanism, but so what I did is I found the evangelical Presbyterian churches within Colorado, and I looked up where their pastors attended seminary. And I decided, well, maybe there's a story there. Maybe they have some communications between each other. And I drew up a network just of the Colorado branches of this particular church based on where they attended seminary. You can do this. I honestly don't know if this is a network or not yet. I don't have a sense. I really want to talk to some of these people and find out. Do they stay in touch? Do they not? I really don't know. Something I do want to present that actually definitely is a network comes from, it's basically the hookup network on the original 90210. These people actually slept with each other, at least on TV, and this tells you how diseases spread and other things like that. So this is very useful. There was another weird network that emerged at the Midwest Political Science Association just this last year, where Ari Cohen, who's a theorist at University of Nebraska, challenged people to take pictures of me at random, and he put them on his website. Now, the link of people who actually did this was kind of weird. It consisted of some people who were already at the University of Nebraska, and also Tophius at Wisconsin, and Kim Dion, who's at Texas A&M. Now, they all knew me, but that's not necessarily the whole network. There's sort of an underlying theme of Facebook and Twitter here. I'm not really sure the whole network story here. It's still confusing. So how can we distinguish between a network and a non-network? One thing to do, interview people. Go out and talk to these nodes if they're alive. Get a sense of who's talking to whom. Are they coordinating at all? Do they have anything in common? Do they actually act like a network? The other thing is lay out a compelling theory. Give us an idea of why people should be talking to each other, why we might believe that there's some sort of communication or coordination going on, or not. Because if you don't, we really don't have any context. And without any context, all we really have is the spaghetti. And spaghetti, as we know, can be cute, and it can be tasty, and it can be a really enjoyable evening, but without the context, it's really just empty calories. Thank you.